to the Not Terrible Show. I am Eric.
And I'm Matthew.
How are you doing today, sir?
Ready?
All right. So, what's happening in the world of Matt this week?
So last week, right before the show, I got like a kick in the nuts.
Okay.
We're trying to get the other house
ready
to rent to a friend, and the AC went out.
Okay.
The central AC went out, so we called, kind of looked on Yelp and found somebody who, found a company who looked, had a lot of good reviews, and had to come out and look at it, and they're like, well, you're out of Freon, and to fill it, it's going to be $1,100, because the old kind of Freon is not being produced anymore.
Yeah.
And once it's gone, it's gone. And once it starts to dwindle, the price goes up, whatever. And this was the same, the same reason I'm sweating right now is because I'm sitting upstairs where the AC unit for the upstairs has not been working for years. We did the show up here, but when the temperature is okay, like it's fine up here, but it's starting to get a little warm, And that was the same thing. They're like, oh, it's $1,100-$1,200 just for the Freon, and then, for R2 Freon, whatever, and then, and then to fix it, it's going to be like $1,500. So you're already, you just might as well get another unit,
Jesus.
So the guy was glad to write me up an estimate, which I thought he was writing me up an estimate for how much the repair was going to be, but it was just for a new unit. It's, $8,100.
Oh, excellent. Yeah.
With the heat, we have gas heat in the attic, and the compressor's outside. So it's like, so my wife had a nervous breakdown at that point. And then, so I was like, we got a new, one of the new units for our house in our bedroom. Just kind of does the bedroom, the dog room, and the basement. And found like the cheapest that I could find, had a bunch of guys come out. And so I had them come out and do an estimate. I'm like, well, maybe it'll be cheaper, maybe that's ridiculous, So I just had them come out to do an estimate on replacing the unit. And so that's what I got right before last week's show, which was like $6,000. And it's still like, I'm like, nah, that ain't it, But I'm looking at the new estimate, and I'm like, the heat pump is like warranted for 20 years.
Yeah.
I'm like, the whole system was built like in 2005, 2006. Like it's not even been 15 years,
Yeah.
The heat pump now, like why would, and the heat was working because we had kind of abandoned the house, just hadn't been there. And I ran the heat at a minimal level to make sure the pipes wouldn't freeze, and it worked. Yeah. So I'm like, so then I started to think, like, why would I need to replace the heat pump? If it's warranted for 20 years, like. So I started looking on Yelp and started looking for people who actually like did AC repair and not just want to come out and hand you a line about you need a new unit,
Yeah.
And basically because the line was the same. Right? So I got this line twice. It's $1,200 to fill the unit, $1,500 to fix it, yada yada yada. So like this time I believed it as well, But so I got this guy out, and he looked at it. He came out on Monday, and he's like, "I'll put some Freon in it." He's like, and I started to do research. I'm like, I'll buy all the stuff myself and do the stupid thing myself. And now you got YouTube. You can go on there. You can find how to do a full, AC service. Call. Like, I'll just buy these pumps and these tools or whatever. I'll do it myself. but they said, you know, like, oh, when you have a leak, you can tell because there's oil also with the Freon.
Yeah, they add to it. So
it doesn't just evaporate. So you can tell where the leak had happened.
Yeah.
You know? The first guy he didn't tell me where the leak was or what was going on, or he had no interest in. And I mean, to their credit, they didn't charge me. He said, I'll just write this up as an estimate. You know, hopefully I can get you a fork over $8,100 because you don't seem to know what the hell you're doing.
What's it going to take to get you into this new unit?
And this guy was like, oh, let me look. He went outside and looked at the compressor unit. We looked in it. He's like, oh, I don't see any oil anywhere. Like, I don't see the leak here. You know, and that would have been the expensive part, like try to replace the coils that they were leaking. He went into the attic. He's like, oh, yeah, I see where it's leaking, but I don't know if it's, you know, like a slow leak or, like a fast leak, a big leak, you know, that needs to be replaced. So he put a little bit of Freon in it. Like, I'll come back in 3 days and we'll see if it held, to a certain degree. And, didn't charge me anything, came back. He's like, oh, and he looked at it. He's like, yeah, it looks like it's holding a little bit. Like, you still have some pressure in here and stuff. Like, I can put this stop leak stuff. He's like, there's certain kinds that are good. And like, I want to get that kind for you, And, and then he's like, this one place that he usually goes to didn't have it. So he's like, oh, I got to order it from Tucson. He's like, well, do you need it faster? And I'm like, well, maybe, because we're trying to get the house ready. It's really hard to go in there when it's there's no AC and do work on it,
Yeah.
So he's like, oh, he checked out this other supply place that was near us. They had it. He came back. And he plugged up the hole. $840.
Oh, hot dog.
Yeah. Meanwhile, I was like, oh, I wish I had found this guy. Because I wouldn't be sweating right now.
Right.
So.
Honest businessman. Look at that.
Yeah. So, I was hoping, yeah, that's for sure. He's like, oh, back in the day, he's an older guy, it's called Alan's Air, and he's Alan.
Yeah.
And he's an older guy, so he's like, back in the day, they didn't build them to replace them. He's like, and then they started with the, with the aluminum. They start to break down, but he's like, the heat pumps, you have gas heat pump. He's like, that'll outlast you and me. That'll be around. That'll last you 30 years. And that's what first clued me in. And I'm like, wait a minute. I don't need to replace that heat pump, and then you kind of look it up and they're like, oh, well, places don't want to replace one without the other. Yeah, of course.
Yeah, right.
They can charge. They kind of work together. You kind of got to spend the extra $3,000. And that was going to be the hard thing too, because it's up in the attic and you got to probably break out the sheetrock to get it down and get it out of there.
Yeah.
So instead of $8,100, it's $840.
Yeah, only 10 times.
So that's good.
Right. Outstanding. That's good stuff.
So I feel better now.
Yeah, right. I feel about
I'd feel more better if if this AC was working. But now I'm like, well, I'm calling them up to service our.
Yeah.
There's 3 units on this house, so
yeah.
Call them up to service the 2 units and take a look at the one, because the one unit that doesn't work, it was definitely a slow leak because it had some Freon in it, but it was so low that it would freeze.
Mm-hmm.
So once it got cold enough, and then they're like, well, we can't just fill it, because if you just fill it, it'll just leak again, and then you'll be right back to the, They mentioned that, oh, you can use a stop leak, and then you'd be fine. No, they just want to sell you a new unit.
Yeah, no, definitely. That seems to be the new mode of everything, right? Everything's built to just be replaced in a couple of years. Nobody wants to. No, it doesn't make sense to build a product that's going to last somebody a lifetime anymore, right? I mean,
right.
like back in the day, that made sense because there was good customer service, and I wanted to serve my customers to the best of my ability, but that's not what it's about now, right? It's all about making that money. And if I just sold you something that's never going to break, how am I going to make more money off of you? You know?
Oh.
What are you doing in there?
That was a weird thing.
Changing rooms. Yeah.
Wait.
Looks like when you put your hand over the camera, like it blanks you out or something. I don't know. That's all right. No, it hasn't been not much going on up here. It's starting to warm up a little bit. We had a really nice week. Not much going on. Where are you going? You keep disappearing on me. I can't hear you now. This fucking guy. Okay, so yeah, no, had a pretty nasty accident happen this week at work. I was near the area, so I was one of the supervisors that responded. 2 guys had stolen a car and were going about 65 miles an hour in a 35-mile-an-hour zone, trying to get away from the cops. And they tried to squeeze between one of our parked buses at a bus stop and another car that was moving in the left-hand lane and didn't make it and wedged their little car. Well, they did about $100,000 worth of damage to the bus and then wedged their car underneath the front wheel of the bus. And then both of them got out and ran away because the cops were hot on their tail. Ended up catching the 2 guys, but we had the road, a pretty major road, blocked up for about an hour and a half while we were doing investigation and measuring all the typical accident stuff. It was a really good time. Ay, caramba. But other than that, no excitement. It's really crazy dead at work because a large portion of my work is like the old people that go to medical appointments and things like that, and all that stuff is closed down, and hopefully it'll start to pick back up now that some of our restrictions are being lifted, but it's probably going to be a while before we're back full swing, as it were. So we've got a bunch of people that are working other jobs and a bunch of people that took voluntary time off just to collect unemployment while, because there's no work for them, really. They come to work and sit for 4 hours and then go home. They're guaranteed 120 hours, but that isn't what they used to get. They used to get, 200 or 300 hours in a month with overtime, but feel bad for some of them. Unfortunately, there's not a whole lot I can do. I'm fortunate enough to still be working. So we had our grocery run this morning, headed out to Costco. They were out of toilet paper by the time we got there, but luckily luckily Winco had.
They're always at it. Like, when are we going to get toilet paper back? That's the only thing I want to fucking know. Like,
we got some last month.
We're still good. Yeah, we're good for a while, I guess.
Yeah, we bought the 36 pack last month, and for just the 2 of us, that's plenty. Like, if the 3 girls still lived at home, that would be a different story. Like, a 36 pack would last us a week and a half, but it lasted. We only use 20 rolls a month, so we still had some left over from last month. But we wanted to get some extra just to make sure. But luckily, Winco had some Scott brand, which isn't preferred, but whatever.
Whatever. Scott's the only thing, man. Whatever, man. Who wants to wipe their ass with cotton balls, man? Come on, man. Scott's the real deal.
Okay. Yeah. I
don't know if you're
80 grit.
I don't know if you've been following the Arizona thing, but it seems like Trump just came to visit, and all of a sudden, the Arizona, administration decided to tell ASU COVID group that was doing prognostication to stop, and they revoked their access to data that they were, they were helping out and figuring out what was going on here. They said, no, we don't need your help anymore, thanks. You can stop now, and we're not going to give you any more data. And then all of a sudden, Ducey comes out and says that he's going to open up. They're going to be the barbers and the hair salons are going to open up tomorrow.
Oh boy!
And then on Monday, restaurants can serve in person. You can go back to, going into restaurants and
is there like a limit, or is it just full total service? Because like
whatever people want.
Okay, so
full service.
The way we're doing a 4-phase thing up here, and like no restaurants still, they can do takeout right now, but then in phase 2, I think restaurants can open but at 25% capacity. Like they can't run full capacity. And then like phase 3, then they can go to full, I think. But
I didn't see anything on that. Just that, that's what they're allowed to, but who knows if they're going to or if people are going to go, but still like seems pretty quick. And also the Ducey administration has falsified some data to try to make it look like it's like cases are going down. When actually hospital admissions are going up, deaths are going up, cases are going up, but they're like, oh, the testing regimen, and they combined like 2 different numbers of like testing for antibodies for people who maybe have had it already, with the testing of new people, to see how much of the population has it, and then they combine these together to make it look like, oh yeah, look, the cases are going way down. Enough said. Let's open up everything.
Yeah.
So
unfortunately,
it feels like we're just getting started here, and the commission that they just disbanded had recommended that really opening up at the end of May was the only scenario that avoided like a catastrophe, basically.
Yeah.
Or the worst, one of the worst case scenarios. And so I don't know. Hopefully that's wrong. And, I guess I have to be grateful that he did anything at all.
Right.
Like we talked last time about stopping the spring training and, and stuff like, but it feels like we're going to be in a world of hurt coming up.
Yeah. And I mean, if you look at past, pandemics like this, generally it looks like the second spike is worse than the first one. And if we hit a second spike like that, that's going to suck.
Yeah, because at first it hasn't spread that much, and then you take aggressive measures, and then you're like, hey, look, nothing happened. Like, fuck it all. And then you're like, oh, fuck, now we're fucked. And
well, and that's
by the time it comes around the second time, you're like, it's too late,
And we've talked about this with vaccines before. Stuff like this is largely it's a victim of its own success, right? Like we take these harsh measures and they work. And I literally heard people at work this week say, oh, they said, there were going to be all these deaths, and there's only been 60,000, and that's as many as the flu kills. And I'm like, first of all,
no,
it takes a year.
It's not over
to do that. Number 2, that was with all of these restrictions. We still had, 70,000 deaths, 75,000 now, with all of these restrictions we had.
We wouldn't have that many deaths with the flu if we did these restrictions.
Yeah. I mean, it's.
So you can't compare them.
No, but they do.
Yeah.
They look at the numbers. Oh, look at 75,000 people dead. That's not very many. We didn't have to do this lockdown. I'm like, what the fuck is wrong with your head? Why are you so dumb? Why are you fucking dense?
Come on, man.
It sucks because a lot of times when I hear stupid shit like that, it's in situations where I can't just straight call it out. When I'm at work as a supervisor wearing my supervisor shirt, I just can't say, you dumb motherfucker. What are you even talking about? But whatever. But go ahead.
Well, I was thinking about, we had talked about that shooting that you witnessed and the video, and I had a couple of questions.
Okay.
One was like, how are you? Like, that's like a pretty brutal thing to see. I don't know. I didn't get a feel of like how
I'm fine. We have a pretty good support system at work, and if I felt like I was having issues, I could easily get help with no questions asked. But I mean, I didn't like. I guess I wasn't like watching and paying attention, and I didn't really see as much as, I mean, I was close, but like maybe I was looking over there or whatever.
Right.
It's not like I saw blood splatter and body material flying. So, and I've it's not the first time I've seen something.
That's the thing, man. You're like moved to Portland. I'm like, first Eric sees the lady dropped her death, and then and quite so maybe honestly, that prepares you, like doing the therapy on that.
That one was to me way worse than this one was, even though
so sudden and you see it.
Yeah,
immediately. Like, and this one, you kind of anticipate what's going on.
Yeah, and I mean. It's a horrible thing, and I wouldn't wish anybody have to ever see anything like that. But at the same time, like I don't feel like it has affected me, but I still think about it occasionally. And I looked at honestly I think watching the video was harder than being there, because the video is way more graphic than what my mind recollects.
Right.
So I'm doing okay.
And the second question was, because you had mentioned that the guy had beaten the other guy and he was on the ground, like he wasn't getting medical attention. They didn't try to secure him and
so that was the
get
thing.
Him medal.
That's why the police were there to try and. That was where the confrontation began. So
where's the ambulance, and why weren't they surrounding that guy with the gun?
So that's the thing. Like that's the response time on this was almost nothing. The police station is literally right around the corner. So the police were on scene literally in like 3 minutes or less. Like they were right there. The ambulance is probably 10 minutes out.
Okay.
Or somewhere in that neighborhood. So
the ambulance hadn't gotten there yet.
No, the ambulance hadn't even gotten there yet.
But the police could still do, like, at least one of the officers should have went over and.
Well, so if you're looking at the video, at that video,
right,
the guy is pacing back and forth, and if you look to the right, there's like some bushes, some hedges. The guy that was beaten was laying right behind those hedges, those bushes. So the officers, I think, were trying to some degree get to him, but were hampered by the guy with a sharpened piece of rebar. Like because he was still pacing near the body or the guy that was laying down. Fortunately, that guy was fine. He ended up getting released from the hospital, and I've seen him hanging out on the street corner where he usually hangs out since then. So they didn't release his name. But yeah, he was. That was kind of the whole situation. I think to some degree, the police were maybe more urgently handling or more aggressive handling the weapon wielding guy because they wanted to get to the other guy. Maybe.
Right. Well, that's what I'm. Because it started me thinking about videos and how even when we think we see what we see, we're still like bringing our bias to it. And you can see even when I was watching the video, the narrator of the video, I'm like, well, that may or may not be true. Like, he's like, oh, just tase him. I'm like, the guy seems like he's wearing some jackets there.
Well,
I don't think. So and then he did say like, oh, it didn't work.
Yeah.
I'm like, how are you going to tase the guy with the jackets on, like that, but, even though, and like we don't know that he just beat a guy and he's laying there by the bushes, we can't see that he has a sharpened piece of rebar. We don't know what he's throwing. Looks like he's throwing some rocks. You're like, that's nothing. He could be throwing something.
Yeah. And that's
detrimental. And it's still upsetting, I'm not trying to make it one way or the other, but it's like, the video is not always.
No, it's not.
You know, like what people think at first. And what really has me thinking about this is, have you seen the?
Yep, I know
the
exactly
shooting of the
the guy,
the
25-year-old
jogger, in like and I'm just like, I've had to delete some people on Facebook. I'm just like, I just can't do it. I can't. You can't just show one piece of evidence and then just say you've got the whole story and everybody needs to believe everything that I say from now on. Like, and then if you disagree with anything, you're discredited.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like, and for sure when you watch that video of them gunning, you know, like, it's very upsetting, and you can kind of see it. Like, if you're not, you know, paying attention that much, like, oh yeah, there's just some white guys out hunting a black guy and just shooting him down in cold blood, you know, like, that's the deal, you know, like a movie that you've seen, you know, just like, okay, it's old times, it's, you know, it's the 1920s, or just running down a slave and shooting them, and, you know, and you see the poor kid just collapse and die, you know, like, it's upsetting, you know. But you watch it and you're like, you see him like run to the right side of the truck, and then all of a sudden he's like grabbing the gun and the shot goes off, which seems like maybe it went off before the shot.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm like, is the guy supposed to just let him grab the gun and take it from and shoot him?
Yeah.
You know, like,
well, and I mean,
I'm like, just the other, I mean, I just want to say before people, you know, I mean, people already shut off the video if they're watching this, but I'm like, that's the gun culture. Like, that's the fucked up nature of it. Like, you take a gun out and somebody tries to grab it from you.
Yeah.
Like, what did this kid do? His kid, even if he was like, and they're just like, oh, he's just going for a jog. Like, that might not be true. Yeah. Like, okay, there was a break-ins at this construction site. He was admittedly, even by his own lawyer, looking in the window. So he's already trespassing. He's already looking in the window. Okay, so you have some citizens, but now they have guns. And they're chasing down this. What the fuck are they doing?
Yeah.
Like, how is that going to end well?
It's
like,
not.
The kid doesn't deserve to fucking die.
That, and ultimately,
because even if he fucking stole something or fucking destroyed something.
Yeah.
You know, so it's like, I'm not advocating for that, but that's our gun culture, man. Like, what are you going to do?
I think
like, the guy can't just let himself be attacked by the kid and have him take a gun and shoot him.
Yeah. And I think we talked about this a couple of years ago on a show. There was a shooting at like a Family Dollar or a Dollar General or something, where somebody was shoplifting.
Oh, there's another. Yeah, I remember.
And the guy ran out of the store, and another dude with a gun ran out and was just willy-nilly shooting at him across a parking lot. And it's like, okay, first of all, like, the penalty for shoplifting from Family Dollar isn't fucking death. Okay? Yes, shoplifting is wrong. Yes, he should be brought to justice. No, he shouldn't be fucking killed for shoplifting some Micanites from the Family Dollar store. And secondarily to that, when you're just blindly shooting, blasting away like fucking Yosemite Sam, you know, bang, 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 then, I mean, you're not even accomplishing the purpose. You're just shooting because you feel like you're doing something, and you're not. You're putting other people in danger, you know? It's fucking pathetic.
Yeah. It's just we're so polarized now. It's just...
no, definitely. And to some degree, and it's fucking too bad, because there's like, I see so many people that this is going to go off on a tangent. My own family, you know, like they'll post something on Facebook, and I'm like, well, that's not right. That's not the way it is. And I wrote, like, after the election, I wrote like a huge article thing on my Facebook page about the Electoral College. And anytime I see somebody post something about the Electoral College, I basically just copy and paste my article and throw it in there and say, okay, here it is. One of my cousins, a guy that I've gotten along with, we were good friends growing up. We hung out, we played, we had fun, you know, posts what liberal fuckwad wrote this? And I'm like, oh, it was me. I'm the liberal fuckwad. Would you like to discuss this in a serious manner? Well, I think the founding fathers were pretty smart dudes, and they knew what they were doing. And I'm like, okay. I said,
they knew how to keep some slaves.
I'm like, did you, first of all, did you even read the article before you just called me a liberal fuckwad? Did you even bother reading it? Because I address exactly what the founding fathers did, what their intent was, and how we're not even living up to that anymore because we stopped fucking adding congressional seats in the 1920s. So congressional seats haven't even kept up with the population as the founding fathers intended. So, I mean, you can't just tell me the founding fathers were smart people and they knew what they were doing, and then we're not even following their plan and agree with that plan still. And so what it came down to was that they didn't even read the fucking article. They didn't even read what I wrote and still argued with me about it. And I'm just like, why are you like this? Like, why? Why can't we sit down and fucking have a beer anymore and talk about this stuff? And so one of my other cousins breaks in. That's why we don't talk about politics and religion. And I said, that's the fucking problem. We can't sit down and talk about politics anymore because everybody wants to call people liberal fuckwads. Like, why can't we just sit down?
You can't do that face to face. It doesn't work out that well.
You know, why can't we sit down and have a beer and politely have a civil discussion about politics? And that's half of the problem. We don't talk about it civilly anymore. And so it's just turned into silliness.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it seems easy when people are willing to have a conversation with each other. Like, no matter how far apart you are on stuff, like, you can have a conversation. But if you get caught up in this, and what the internet now does is like polarize you so bad that you're not even willing to have a conversation, then you can't even have a conversation face to face because you get so frustrated. You're like, and that's what my sister's like, you know, like I said last time or the time before, like, she thinks, oh yeah, we don't talk about politics. You know, it's like, well, that's just her. I never agreed to that.
Yeah, right.
That's her own. I'll talk about it all the time. And I'm like,
yeah.
And she likes to wax poetic about my dad. You know, my dad has passed away, and just how she loves him and whatever. Like, thank God he died before fucking Trump became president. Like, that would be a fucking nightmare for him. And the fact that his daughter fucking voted for him and that she still thinks about him as, like, you learned nothing he fucking taught you. Like, what the fuck? Like, he was about science and about learning and about, you know, putting facts together. And it's not like he was right about everything.
Yeah.
But just to abandon everything about, you know, that we grew up in, you know, Unitarian Universalist church, you know, about human rights and, you know, respecting everybody's opinion, no matter, you know, how crazy it sounds to us. Like, it's got nothing of it. Nothing. Yeah. You've just evolved into a, you know, like an alcoholic fucking rage machine, you know, that doesn't give a fuck about human life. It's like, but I'm willing to talk to you about it.
Yeah, right.
Because I can still have a conversation with her. I still make her laugh. Because I still, you know, like, when you get together with somebody, you see their humanity, and like if you talk about things that are real, things that are local to them, like, everything makes sense. Everything lines up. They don't treat people like that in their real life.
Yeah.
You know, when they're dealing whatever their job is, or like, you know, you don't act like that. You only act like that once you get on the internet and, like, you know, you hear somebody get all riled up.
Yeah. No, definitely. And plus there's the anonymity afforded by the internet, where you don't have to answer for the things that you say to a large degree. You can type whatever the fuck you want behind a keyboard, and you don't ever have to look somebody in the eye while you do it, you know?
That's true. I still play the Madden 20, you know, game, and then they're like, oh, like, there's the Madden Championship, Club Championship, whatever. Like, like, tune into Twitch. So I tune into Twitch, but the problem with Twitch, you know, the problem with, like, watching, like, they force you to watch these shows to get whatever stupid reward that, you know, you think you get, which I don't even care anymore. But I was like, I clicked on it, you know, like, And this is the way it used to be. Like, it just became a rage thing because I'm so fucking mad that I spent all this money on this stupid game that doesn't work the way it should for that money. You know, like,
no, I hear you.
So, like, I just click in and it's like the first thing I see is a Pizza Hut ad. Say, are you beyond mac and cheese and PB&J? They get Pizza Hut. So I'm like, fuck you. I'm like, F you, Pizza Hut. Mac and cheese is way better than your crappy pizza. Type that. And then I'm like, F you, Pizza Hut. I just had PB&J yesterday, which I did. Because I've been quarantined, so I haven't been going out a lot. I'm like, what can I eat here?
Yeah.
I got peanut butter jelly. And I'm just like, you're timed out for 425 seconds. I'm like, fuck yeah. I'm like getting off here. I'm like, I don't think I need to go on that anymore. Because it's just like, it's just a rage thing. And I'm like, it's a shame too. Because like I watch, like when you watch these, like you watch these people like compete on the mat, they're playing, virtual football, and they're like, and they're treating each other like crap. They're getting mad and they're showing off and they're cursing each other and it's like, that's not what we need. Like the fun of playing the game is you can play games and be competitive and have a lot of fun, have respect, and even see that a lot more now. I think in the NFL, there's a lot of respect, among the players. How fragile the sport is. I think my wife might be home.
Okay. It sounds like
you hear the dogs
home.
there.
Oh yeah, I hear them.
Oh yeah. I can turn them off there. Okay, you talk.
Oh, I talk, so the dogs are turned off. So speaking of, we'll segue from Madden NFL into actual NFL. So the NFL schedules came out today, and I think I had mentioned to you, I might have texted you before, but when the initial opponents list came out, the Jets were going to be playing up here in Seattle. So it looks like that's going to be December
12/13, sir.
Yeah, so that'll be.
It's a date. Those tickets are probably only like $800 a piece or something.
I think you can get. It depends on how comfortable you want to be. I guess you can get standing
uncomfortable as possible.
Standing room tickets for like $150.
Boom. Sold.
Where you stand the whole time.
Stand.
Yeah, no stand.
I don't know. I might want a seat.
Well, then maybe like $200 or $250, maybe.
Maybe we'll get lucky and the Seahawks will suck ass.
That's a possibility.
Or be so good that they'll already be in the playoffs by the time 12/13 comes around.
Here's the thing, like the Jets are not like that's not a huge rivalry, so it's not like a rivalry game, and it's not a division game. Although it is getting close there to the end of the season, it's still that's still going to be 3 to 4 weeks away from the end of the season. So
that's my hope, is that the Seahawks don't really need to win that game and they're resting their players. And the Jets need that game and we can actually win.
Well, I mean,
that's my only hope.
You don't have Brady in your division anymore, so who knows what the fuck's going to happen in the AFC East, or is that the North?
Yeah, but we still have Bill Belichick.
Yeah.
That's a pretty good defense that he's put together there with the Patriots. And Brady hasn't been performing, or the offense hasn't been performing as well.
Yeah, it's been.
I don't know if that's Brady or just the whole system.
Yeah, I'm not sure either. But you see that he's now in Tampa, and Gronk has come out and looks like he's going to come out of retirement to go to Tampa as well. So that's going to be crazy.
Yeah, I was playing one of the solo games on the Madden, and there was a Tampa Bay team that wasn't very good, but they had Brady. And I went into check the depth roster to see if they had Gronkowski, and he had Gronkowski too. So it's nice. Oh, there you go. Somebody in Tampa, some Tampa Bay fan is really happy.
So yeah, that definitely.
And plus, you have my old, the Arizona coach.
Yeah.
Right, who's the head coach, and then the old Jets coach is the defensive coordinator.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, that'd be really cool if they have a full season and have fans in the stands. That'd be really cool if you could come up. We could do that.
If anybody wants to get together right next to each other and cough on each other,
definitely
yell and
as we start back into the beginning of December is back into flu and cold season, right? So that hopefully will happen. But I had planned a party for mid-July. It was going to be like what I called the social reintegration jam. And once some of this stuff started coming out, I'm like, maybe I better push that back to August. So now shooting for hopefully mid-August, having a party down by Roger's place to get back together with everybody and kind of reconnect, because it kind of sucks not being able to go out and do things. We haven't been able to go out and do a lot of the stuff. Normally, if I'm off on the weekend, we're out doing things. We go out and see stuff or take walks or do whatever, and haven't got to do any of that stuff, which sucks. Hate being cooped up, especially, up here as the weather starts turning nice. But
right. Well, you can still go out and do walks and stuff. And,
to some degree.
I'm not doing well with the social isolation. I guess I was isolated enough, and it's like, I don't know, this just makes it
add another layer.
Realize how much just a little bit of going out and seeing people, like, like, I don't know, like, you wonder if there's going to be a new normal, like coming up. And
that's the thing. Like, what does,
because you think people,
like
I don't think, like there'll definitely be some people, because obviously you got people are just kind of ignoring, saying, it's nothing.
Yeah.
And, like they're just going to go back to normal. And I don't know, I saw a thing on Twitter today about some Fox News, on the Fox News channel, where I assume that was true, saying, like, it's time to go out and get a little bit infected and get this herd immunity going.
Yeah.
Like, I understand, like, it's hard to maintain this for very long. And I heard somebody was talking about, I guess it was Tom Hartman, was saying that the problem is that there's not a lot of people who have been affected by somebody who's died from COVID-19. Like maybe only 1 or 2% of people, unless you live in New York. But there's a lot of people who know people who have been affected by the economy.
Yeah.
Being shut down. And
so
if you start to open this up, and like, even once you get to like 3 or 5% of people who have been affected by this, it'll come back. Mm-hmm. And all of a sudden we're going to think this is serious again.
Yeah.
It's a shame that we have to go there. Like,
it is.
We seem to understand it at first, but we're like, we can't really stick with it. And I feel it too. Like, it's really hard, and you want to open up stuff. Like, it seems like we flatten the curve, right? So the hospitals aren't overwhelmed. Like, how do we open up stuff in a reasonable way? And it seems like doing medical stuff would be the first thing, like opening up elective surgeries and maybe doing some of that stuff. Like, I don't know, but I saw another report where the CDC report on how, the federal government, should recommend, reopening the economy. It's just been squashed.
Yeah.
And it had to get leaked, for us to even know what it is, because they're like, the federal government just wants to leave it to the states so that they have no responsibility in it and take no leadership. You can't take any fall for it. If you didn't take a lead in it, you can't be blamed for what happened, I guess. But
no, and it's
I don't know. I'm not really encouraged by the election either, because it looks like Trump's going to get elected, even with this disaster, maybe because of it. Like,
definitely.
You can just say, "Hey, it's not me. I didn't do this."
Yeah, there's like
there's no leadership on the other side, really, except
or 3 camps maybe. Well, there's so many dynamics at play. Number one, the other choice is absolutely horrible, right? Like Biden isn't a fucking great choice. So that sucks. And then you have the fact that it's hard to think of a change in leadership when we're in crisis mode. Like, we're in crisis mode. Crap, do we really want to unplug what we've got going and plug something else?
You don't change horses midstream.
Yeah, right.
That was a movie from the the 80s. Like, I remember that.
So
wag the tail, right? The dog
wag the dog.
Wag the dog. Yeah.
Yeah, and so there's that, going on, and then there are some people that think Trump is doing an excellent job because he said he is. So how do you even deal with that? But
that's probably true.
I don't know what you do. Is that the art behind your, what was that be, your left shoulder? Is that the Val Kilmer art or no? That's the metal.
No.
Okay.
Jameson art.
Okay.
Same as
yeah, I remember you got those commissioned. They're metal.
Why
right?
can't I get that? Oh, that one.
Yeah. Okay.
I can't remember his first name. Jameson. He had
Hi,
a.
Trudy.
Oh. He worked in L.A. as a traffic helicopter pilot.
Okay.
And he had a. He had a dog. The dog became like a celebrity.
Oh,
unlike my dogs, they're just
they're celebrities.
They're freaking out because Trudy came up here.
Yeah.
They do the same thing when Celeste comes up here. Like,
so did you?
They're like, new person upstairs. This is 3 rules. Let's chase the kitties and maybe see what flavor they are.
Oh boy. So did you see where Kilmer came out? He's a Christian Scientist. I think you already knew that.
Right.
And he came out and said that the chemo, or no, his prayer is what saved him. The chemo and the radiation and the tracheotomy, those are his nightmares, or those are, problems, not the things that helped him, get rid of the throat cancer.
Did he have those things, or?
Yeah, he had chemo and radiation because his kid.
I guess
his kids made him do it. Because they're not Christian Scientists, and they were like super scared, so they made him get actual medicine.
Yeah, he's pretty messed up. So I mean, I could see. I mean, sometimes there's just not going to be an answer. Like,
well, you're right.
So.
All right, sir. Well, what did you have anything for your segment? Your raging. What do you got?
Oh. Well, I don't know. I thought a couple of segments last time was like just a waste of time because you didn't have anything to say about them.
Oh, what am I supposed to?
But I don't know if you've heard of this guy Slova Zizek.
Actually, you know what? Hold up there first. So we talked last week. You talked about the psychiatrist guy that.
Yeah.
I can't think. Logo therapy guy.
Yeah.
So what is the effect where
Frankel? Viktor Frankl.
So there's an effect. There's like a thing in the universe where like you've never heard of something, and then once you hear of it, like you hear about it all the time.
Yeah.
2 other podcasts I listened to and a friend at work brought up Viktor Frankl this week. And I'm like, what the fuck is going on?
He's the bomb, man. He's the bomb. He's the real deal, Like,
where is this coming from?
How do you deal in a world with suffering, and how do you deal with a world with the most suffering you could possibly fucking have? Have your whole family killed, be stripped down naked, watch your friends and people you love like just dying around you, and have no hope to even survive. Like,
so I'm watching.
He wasn't like, there's a story like he wasn't even that like religious or whatever, and he wanted to say or he asked somebody like, well, what should I do? And they're like, well, say a prayer. And he's like, he didn't know any prayers, any Jewish prayers. So he's like, well, there's one prayer about I guess death or whatever. Mm-hmm. So he did this prayer this one morning in the concentration camp, and and that day they were liberated. And he just had that practice.
Yeah.
Like every morning, he just said that prayer, and people, like at least one guy was kind of friends with him or wanted to be friends with him, and I mean he was friends with him, but he thought of him as so superior. He's like, how can I be friends with the famous Viktor Frankl?
Yeah.
But he was, and he came to his house one morning and he saw him doing this prayer, and he took him back because he's like, he's not a religious guy, like, and like this is just like just a personal, kind of centering mechanism for himself, and God, like it just happened to be that he did it on that day, and like he was liberated,
Yeah. So I'm watching, Amazon has a show called Hunters, which is it's Al Pacino and some other people. No, you didn't like it?
Oh, I hated it.
Really?
It's terrible.
Wow. Okay.
It's terrible, man. It's like,
I had been
God, man. It's everything that sucks about. It's like what kind of. There's a book I started to read, and I go through these phases where I read books, and I want to read like 4 or 5 books at a time.
Yeah.
And I go for like 2-3 weeks, and I read them, and then I'm like, I don't know, I kind of feel alone and lost, and I'm like, there's no one to share it with, or But I'm talking about capitalist realism, and exiting. How do you exit the vampire's castle?
Mm-hmm.
And the vampire's castle is just capitalism has taken over everything, so that no matter what kind of any kind of objection or criticism just gets like folded into the spectacle, to where it's even like it's really cool to be, as long as you're anti-capitalist, then you can just participate in capitalism because, hey, I'm anti-capitalist, right?
Yeah.
I already know it's bad, and then you just participate in it. It's like,
as long as I've acknowledged
and
that,
and you're talking about how do you not be part of the, and like one of the things is any criticisms of the vampire's castle is brought down upon you on individual moralism.
Mm-hmm.
So you're individually like outside the, like the acceptable, like spectrum, so you just, anybody who criticizes the vampire's castle or capitalism is just, well, don't you participate in capitalism? Don't you? You're like, and you just attack them personally, and then you get to discredit whatever thought, that they had. Whereas, like, we should be able to take some, reprehensible person, if they make a valid point, like, hey, yeah, that's a valid point, and you're a dick, like, you don't have to get stuck on it, like, and that's.
Well, yeah, that's ad hominem attack, right? You're attacking the person rather than their argument.
Right.
Yeah.
It's gotten so pervasive. I forgot. I lost my thread.
You kind of went. Yeah, you shot off on a tangent.
I almost had it too, man.
It's all right.
Oh, that's
There's another show that I watched last week. Upload. Did you see any of that?
Yeah, I watched the credit. I watched the promo or whatever, and
well, I was gonna bring it up.
Stupid.
I was gonna bring it up a moment ago when you were talking about Madden and spending money. So the gist of the show is that you can upload your consciousness when you die into a computer, and then you live in these huge different retirement communities that are set up, and the whole world is ran by corporations. Like, there's a lot of funny like merging of corporate names, like Taco Bell, Hewlett Packard is a corporation, they've all merged in the future. But it's so funny because in these retirement communities, you're dead and you still have to have credits to get things, right? You have to, somebody on the outside, or you have to have already set up a credit. So the guy goes to the freezer and he swipes and he wants to get a Coke, and as soon as he grabs it, a little bar comes up and says, "That's $1.29, sir. How would you like to pay for that?" And it's like, son of a bitch, like to the extreme with the capitalism. So just for that, you might enjoy watching it. Like I said, just a lot of the send up of how corporate mergers and how corporate we have become. You know, it's. I thought it was a good show. You might check it out. Give it like one or two episodes to see if you like. The promo does look silly, but when I watched it, I'm like, that wasn't too bad. Another show that I really liked was I don't know if you ever watched the first series of Afterlife with Ricky Gervais. He did a show. So the series 2 is out now, and I watched all of that like in one day. We sat and watched all 8 or 10 episodes or whatever. So that one is a very good show, and I just like.
Oh, I like that. Ricky Gervais is a good thinker. He's outside the. Well, we were talking about hunters, right? And I went off on a tangent. Yeah. But like, I mean, one of my loves, like from last week, that I was thinking of was, and the book. Like you would ask me what books that you'd want to download, and I gave you The Guns, Germs, and Steel by Jared Diamond, and then also The Bluest Eye by Toni Morrison. And Toni Morrison is one of my other loves, and I have a book that I actually bought on the way back from my last trip when I came out to see you, you know, to read on the plane, and she's somebody who is like has created herself outside the paradigm of the dominant culture, right? Just as like what is really important and what's really life, you know, like when I read The Bluest Eye, you know, I was like, well, this is a great critique of human experience and just what it means to try to make sense of stuff that we're supposed to like.
Yeah.
So The Bluest Eye is about the reference is to a young black child getting a plastic doll, you know, a white doll with a blue eye, you know, blue eyes, and just like, how is this supposed to be? Like, I'm supposed to love this thing? Like, it's hard, it's plastic, it doesn't look like me, like, you know. And when I first went to go look for, a friend had lent me her book, and when I went to go to Borders, the bookstore, to look for it, I couldn't find it in the literature, and I'm like, where is it? Like, and then it's like, oh, it's in African American literature. And I'm like, okay, that makes sense. Cause if you want to find that, like, but I'm like, to me, it like, I can say, oh yeah, that was a book about African Americans, you know, but like, it was more of a book about humans, you know, like it wasn't, you know, it wasn't like specifically about, you know, African Americans. And so much of a culture is in response to what the culture is. Like, I even kind of see like Marx, you know, like Marxism, and, you know, Karl Marx, if you read him, like, he's all about capitalism. Like he understood. He's like, you know, like I've said before, like Chris Hedges says, oh, if you're going to train a capitalist, you want him to read Marx, you know, because Marx really understood capitalism. And it's like, well, can't we figure out something beyond, you know, outside the paradigm? And that's what I think Toni Morrison, and I've read some, you know, complimentary, you know, criticisms of her that, yeah, she doesn't, you know, like you see this, everybody talk about, oh, white male heterosexual person is the norm. And that's, if you just hear a name that sounds male, like you're going to think of them as a white heterosexual, you know, male, you know. And she's somebody who wrote like not falling into that paradigm or not taking the other side of the coin. Like I've heard about like the sexual revolution, the 60s was just like the other side of the coin of sexual repression of women.
Yeah.
And like it just recreated sexual oppression, and it wasn't really, sexually freeing. And, obviously we're talking about, obviously I don't know what I'm talking about, like, but in a larger sense, like, I think these theories hold up, like, not that everybody, not that everybody was sexually repressive or everybody, but it's not, you're responding to, you're just responding to the culture in a negative way instead of just creating something that's truly like human, out of it. And I guess that's the way I see the Hunters movie is just kind of like, well, we can be just as nasty, we're going to just go down with nasty killing, and we don't need all the evidence we need, and just, black and white, align yourself with the good and destroy the evil. And okay. I just found it so offensive, and just, just take a juxtaposition of like Viktor Frankl's, philosophy to fucking Hunters. And it's like, ugh. Hunters is disgusting, like they got no respect for what, they're just trying to cash in on the misery and cash in on it by saying that you just hunt down somebody and just murder them and just be as evil as the Nazis were, and that's fucking good enough for me. And hey, I can understand that. And I think Viktor Frankl, you say he could understand that as well. Like that's the anger, and but it's so far removed. Now this is spectacle. Like we're watching this as entertainment. It's not like people are watching this and like, it's not like we just experienced this a few years ago and we're all like suffering from, our grandparents who went to concentration camps, and, like this is just using spectacle to provide a narrative of just destroy the evil, and it's a Christian Judeo Muslim fucking worldview. Align yourself with the good and destroy the fucking evil, like we got to move beyond that. And like, of course we do that in the context, and we want to protect people, but I don't know. I can't do media like that. Like I wanted it to work. I'm like, oh, this could be great, like, but to think of these, like they show these people who went through this stuff and just show them as monolithic, haters of wanting to just get vengeance. It's just saying that they're destroyed, like they were destroyed. Their humanity was destroyed, Like, I don't know, there's a video that I keep seeing of a woman who goes into, a woman survivor of a concentration camps who goes into prisons and is like talking with people and talking about just the horrors of seeing her mother be killed and people burned in the, like spread out into the fields, and she's got to rake up like the bones of her mother and ancestors. And, these prisoners are like, wow, like if this person could go through this and come out, like a civilized human being who cares about everything, can put down that hatred and that venom, then maybe I can too, like, and that would be the message. That's the message. That's the message of Viktor Frankl. That's the message of this woman who went into the, prisons and talked about having to break the bones of her ancestors in the field. Like what more horror could you like go through? Like, and the answer is just to be be the Punisher. Just get the biggest fucking guns you can, just fucking rip through anybody. Just go down to Charlottesville, just fucking mow down everybody no matter what, like, come on, man.
Okay.
Like that's just selling. That's just selling hatred.
All right.
You don't agree?
I mean, I can see where you're coming from. I understand your point, and I can see how much like a lot of the blaxploitation films, this could be, I guess, Jewsploitation, if that's a term.
Okay.
But
I like it. You're coining a term there.
I don't know if I am. Dude.
I'm sure that'll go over well.
There's a
crowd.
There's a website. Well, it's not Reddit is another social media platform that I'm on quite a bit. And one of the main things I've learned from being on there is that we almost never have an original thought. Because I'll see like a post and it'd be like, oh my God, I've got to go type this thing that's funny or this thought that I had. And I go on there and like 8 other people have already typed it out and had that thought. And I'm like, oh, well, fuck me then.
Yeah, it's like disappointing.
It is sometimes. So I think though, we went off on a tangent with Viktor Frankl because you were going to begin talking about something else before I interrupted that. So I think you were going to do, was it your love or your learn or where were you at there?
Well, the love was Toni Morrison because
okay.
I guess I didn't really get to why, because I feel more and more like just kind of alienated and
mm-hmm.
Especially now where you don't get to have human interaction with people. And when you do, it's fucking weird because if you have a mask on, it's fucking weird. If the other person doesn't have a mask on, it's fucking weird.
Yeah.
Like everything is fucking weird. Like it's hard to,
It is.
But
and not only that, then you also try to do the distancing. So you're like skirting around people or standing back while they're looking at the steak, and all you want to do is go grab. You can see the steak you want. You just got to get that guy out of your way.
Right. But like I feel like Toni Morrison is the one like is the one light that I can go to and I just read her and she's not pulling punches, like she understands humanity and she's always dealing with it in a very intellectual way that's satisfying. And like, because no matter where I go, like, I feel like, people like to have points or they have things to say, but it's always degenerates into, like, oh, I want the certainty of my own tribe or certainty of my own point of view, or I'm, if you watch YouTube channels or,
mm-hmm.
People who are broadcasting to people, like they need something from people. So they're always going to like pander to those people and they kind of give up on their thread becomes less important than getting the super chat. Oh, I hope people do the super chat. Oh, okay. So that's how you just have to give money. You give more money and then you get your question answered. Like, that's the kind of thing that it evolves into. Like, even when you see smart, people like it's part of Vampire's Castle, man. You can't fucking escape, man. Everybody's in it. It's like the fish in water. The fish don't know they're in water. They're like,
right.
What do you mean water? What water? There's no fucking water.
Yeah.
Like, we're just here. Like,
this is just where we live. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that reminds me a little bit of, God damn it, I just had a thought and it might have just chased itself away. Crap. What were you talking about?
The fish in water, Toni Morrison being my light in the dark, like I can always go to her to be intellectually consistent.
There was a thought you had, and I had a thought too, and then God damn it, why does my head work this way? I don't know what happened. And I know, like, you're going to be in the middle of whatever you have to say next, and it'll come up, but then it won't make any sense anymore. So I don't know. I had
cut me off and spit it out when you got it in your mind. That was my love, and then Learn. I still love the WebMD channel.
Yeah,
like they give some great updates on the COVID stuff and kind of learning about like what might actually be going on, and even they like they have at least one of their like updates like deleted from YouTube. And he even mentioned it. He's like, but the guy is so like scientifically oriented. Like he's a doctor. He co-founded this website that helps medical students have videos to learn to be able to study and stuff.
Your wife?
And he just what?
I said your wife posted a video on Facebook the other day from one of the guys that you had mentioned before, talking about wearing masks and how he kind of thought it was all a bunch of bullshit because people aren't wearing their masks properly. So it doesn't really, the end result is that it doesn't.
Yeah, Z-Dog, right?
Yeah, that was the one.
Yeah, I got mad.
Oh, boy.
I got mad with her with that. I was just like, whatever. Because he's like, oh, you're a douche. He said, oh, yeah, if you wear a mask and it's not required, you're a douche.
I thought this was a soda, but it turns out it's a can of worms I just opened up. Shit. I'm sorry.
I'm like, oh, I'm a douche for wearing a mask. Okay, because and it's like, well, you can't definitively prove any one.
No, you're right.
Piece of fact, but I'm like, look at South Korea and places where they're wearing masks. Like, it seems to be working pretty good. And when you breathe stuff out, like you're breathing droplets out. The mask covers that, and it also like stops you from like touching your own face.
Yeah,
right. And then you can wash that mask.
Part of what I got from that was not necessarily that wearing a mask was wrong, but that we should be educating more people on how to properly wear their masks and the things that they should or shouldn't be doing.
Well, that would be the thing. That's what because that's just the argument that everybody used. Like, okay, so why are we doing quarantine? It doesn't stop the spread of everything.
Yeah,
you can still go to Home Depot and spray. Those two douchebag doctors.
Well, that was another.
We're talking about like, we're not trying to stop. You don't stop everything. Yes, of course people are idiots. Of course people are putting their phones up to their like we're slowing it down. Like
yeah. Get off the podcast now. Hi there. The one I was gonna mention was one of these videos I saw, it was a redneck dude or something. Talking about, hundreds of thousands of people die from heart disease and we don't quarantine for that. And I'm like, because that heart disease, the answer to heart disease isn't a quarantine. It's stop eating fucking 43 Twinkies. It's stop having
contagious unless you got a Burger King.
What the fuck? Literally, no arguments make sense. And it's like, what the fuck is wrong with you? Why do you think this way? Why do you not think the right way? Which... I guess there's no right or I'm stopped now. Go ahead.
One of the learned things on the WebMD. I don't know. Did I mention? He was saying he was very scientific, and he just looks at different papers and talks about them very reasonably. And even when he comes up, like he's got a pretty good hypothesis of what's going on with COVID-19, as it's. It's affecting the inner lining of the blood vessels, which is the endothelium system, right? So it's like oxidative stress. That's why we're seeing, like even my friend who is, like head chaplain of like the hospital group in New York was saying like, oh, they discharged a patient and then like they found him dead in like the bathroom, right? Because it's not just a breathing thing. Like it enters through the lungs, but then it affects the system and it affects how your blood like delivers oxygen. to yourself. But he's still like, well, we're not sure, but this, this starting to make sense. And he looks at all these different papers and stuff. And even when YouTube took down his video, he's like, well, they have a hard job to do. And, we understand. And, you can still view all our, videos. We try to do a, right, job. And it's like, that's so I don't know if he knows that he's American. He's supposed to be angry and start, cursing at people. That's that's all I want to see. I want to see intelligent people that are bringing intelligent arguments and and not even getting mad that his stuff is getting deleted off of YouTube. And one of the things that that I thought was pretty cool. I don't think I mentioned it was the far UV light. Have you heard of this?
I don't think it
has. So there's 3 different UV lights: the A, B, and C. Mm-hmm. And if you take the C, and so it's a wave. So the A is very low wave, so it goes right through you. It gives you fucking cancer, and then the B is a little bit higher wave, and it's still pretty damaging. Comes down, and the C, is a much bigger wave, and it doesn't actually get to the Earth, the ozone layer, traps it up there, and even at that level of the wave, it's still damaging to humans. Yeah. But if you increase the wave a little bit, right, it can't even get through your eye retina or dead skin. Yeah. But it can kill viruses in the air and on surfaces. So, and this is a paper that came out in 2018, and my mom, they bought a UV light and they're using it to, if they get packages or whatever, because you don't even need the far UVC light. If you just get UV light and don't put it on yourself, it will kill things on the surface, and so that's pretty exciting. They're trying to rush it and trying to get FDA approval, but it could be used in airplanes and in airports and hospitals, and I mean, there's a trick to where if it's too high, it won't kill stuff on surfaces, it'll just kill the stuff in the air. But so I mean, that's obviously what Trump had heard about when he's like, maybe we can get the UV light inside the blood there. I don't know nothing about nothing, but
I have
the doctors do that stuff all the time.
Yeah.
But it's possible. Who knows? I mean, it's possible that you might be able to, do a, a dialysis thing where you take the blood out and zap it with some light and it doesn't damage the, who knows?
Yeah, who knows?
I doubt it.
Yeah, and kind of
certainly Trump doesn't know.
No, exactly. Kind of ties in with no original thoughts, right? There's probably some scientist that was like, hey, let's try and how can we get light on this blood? Just something, I don't know. But yeah. What else you got?
So Rage, I guess I don't know. There's a lot of rage. I guess we talked about rage.
Yeah, we did. We raged a little bit.
He just comes in.
You had mentioned a minute ago.
I guess I'm kind of raging that they're opening up everything.
A little early.
Starting with salons and restaurants instead of medical stuff. I don't know.
2 years ago, weren't we?
But I don't have an idea. So but it just seems like this ain't gonna work.
Yeah.
And the fact that they've manipulated the data, right? Oh, did you see where Trump came? He came to Arizona, right? He visited the Honeywell factory, and they were playing the Guns N' Roses song "Live and Let Die" pretty loud.
Yeah, I saw that.
I don't know. That seems like a passive aggressive kind of thing they were doing there. I don't know.
Maybe
I don't know, man. It could go either way, though. That could be. That's like the video. You could just see it whatever way you want it.
Even if that was their message, right? And if it was a passive aggressive thing, he's not fucking smart enough to get it. So why bother, right?
Trump's
like
easy to deal with. You don't deal with him at all until you have to, and then you just you kick him in the nuts, you look him in the eye, and you get what you want or you don't. I don't know, like, there's no reason to.
You were talking about a minute ago about the guy's YouTube's being censored, and that led me. That I had a thought about that. So a couple of weeks ago, or last week, I think it was a couple of weeks ago, we had talked about QAnon, and one of my buddies is down that rabbit hole. Well, he posted a thing today about, apparently on Facebook, you can disable the fact-checking options. So he posted a thing talking about, I made a few posts and they got censored because of Facebook's fact-checking. So here's how you go disable the fact-checkers. And I'm like, do you even know what you're fucking saying? Like, listen to what you just said, right? Like, he did, what the fuck is wrong? But, so there you go. So I guess then we'll call it a show for this week, huh? It's good to speak with you. I hope you have another great week. Chin up, my friend.
So there's one philosophy we should all follow is one earth, one people.
Are you sure it's
There's
not?
only one in-group left. It's all humans.
All humans. Humanity, right? Humanity first. All right. Love you, brother. Have a good week.
All right. Love you too.
Peace.
Peace.